I'd like to welcome you to this very important occasion today. My name is Mustafa Kilani and I'll be your host. And it is indeed, usually, people would always say, even though I expect that sometimes you might have those who are also aspiring to get married in this event today, but I assume most of us here are married already. So it's safe to say sometimes when they say that this weather is a weather for two. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. It promises to be a very enlightening and, of course, eye-opening conversation that we're going to be having today. If you look very closely to this banner right there, it says, "Shoot your shot," clearly demonstrating that what we're going to be doing today is not just a lecture in the sense of lecture, but rather a one-on-one physical conversation about conversations and topics that matters in the institution of marriage. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide our thoughts as we do that. It is also very important that we recognize that as Muslims, we always begin with prayer, because indeed, our affairs can only be left in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to that end, I would request that every one of us jointly recite Surah Al-Fatiha. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Ameen. That said, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to again welcome you to the Muslim Singles and Married Media Initiative. And this indeed is the workshop of MSMMI, Marriage Workshop, with the theme, the Muslim Marriage Circle. The Muslim Marriage Circle. And today, the first thing we'll be looking at today in our first conversation would be maintaining the marriage bond, communications, finance, and parenting. I don't even know if the time would permit us, because this seems like a very well-loaded topic. And before I bring on, of course, our facilitator for this very important conversation, I'd like to give you a very funny example. And this is also for those of us that are still single in here.
I'd like to invite my mentor, consultant, counselor, and father. Ladies and gentlemen, let's bring on Dr. Sulaiman Ogumuyiwa. Kept it around for him, please. Kept it around for him again. Dr. Sulaiman Ogumuyiwa has been doing this for quite a while, and he's been known to do excellently in delivering
such conversation at different forums, to of course different audiences as well. We can only ask Allah to continue to pilot your affairs successfully and to continue to guide your thoughts as you lead this very important conversation today on the marriage, maintaining the marriage bond, communication, finance, and parenting. Thank you very much.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Indeed, all praises and adorations are due to none but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of the heavens and the earth and what is contained in between the two. I bear witness that none deserve worship, adoration, or praise but Him. I equally bear witness that Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a messenger of Allah, is a prophet of Allah, and also a humble servant of Allah. May Allah continue to shower on him His mercies and blessings, on his household, on his companions, and the generality of Muslims until the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah. I want to start first and foremost by appreciating the Miss Me for bringing this up and making us have conversations around this. I want to also appreciate what the earlier speakers since yesterday and participants have been doing, and I hope that our discussion this morning too will not be boring. I am Sulaiman Ogunmiwa, as introduced. I studied counseling, guidance and counseling from University of Lagos, first and second degrees. I also have a third degree in education administration before I got my PhD from the University of Abuja. I have been a marriage counselor and I've also been married for 25 years. I have also been a trainer, training teachers and also more significantly training marriage counselors. I always find it very exciting talking to couples and try to see how they can solve their problems. This morning, we'll be looking at 3 serious concepts together: communication, finance, and parenting. And we are going to make this to be conversational. Which one do we start with? Communication or finance or parenting? Communication. Huh? Okay, I also agree because I read somewhere that just as love is the heartbeat of marriage, communication is the lifeblood of marriage. The moment communication breaks down, then the marriage starts to break down. And the surest way for us to find ourselves in marital discord or in divorce is to close the door of communication. So, it starts, funnily, marriage starts with communication. You know, I remember those days, you are the only sugar in my tea, you are the only butter on my bread. There is nobody that is married that didn't hear these things before marriage. Esa, did you say it? Did you tell her? We all did. I used to tell my wife that if they pack 1 million sisters and they turn their back, I will identify you. That is the extent to which it was shocking me. So, but years after, I just go on my business, my dawa. So one day, I read a book that when I started my marriage career, that you should always tell your wife you love her. And this I have never said before after marriage. So I picked my phone and I said, Assalamu alaikum, bawoni, I love you. Said, what did you say? I said, I love you. Said, where are you? I said, I'm in the office. I don't know people there. You know, I used to be a teacher. We have a pool. Said, they are here. They are looking at me. I said, and you are saying what you are saying? I said, yes. I wish I can be on top of the world and tell the world that I love you. You know, she was very happy. Now, I don't say this. That's the truth. And once upon a time, she brought up that discussion, and I said, in the first instance, if I don't love you, will I marry you? Okay, so communication is, we start marriage with communication, telling ourselves sweet things. So soon after marriage, communication becomes different. So things we have been saying before becomes, okay, so why do we think communication is a problem in marriage? The mic, we have another mic here for us to, speak to this. The truth of the matter I must tell you is that in marriage, nobody has the ABC of marriage. In fact, the best way to improve in your marriage is to engage in marital discourse. When you discuss with people about marriage, you learn a lot. So I'm also here to learn. So let's pass the mic around. Why do we think communication is a problem? Or is communication a problem?
Okay, I think one of the reasons would be because we are all professors at assuming things. And most of the time, we assume the wrong things. And because of that, when we don't communicate, there is no way you will think you know the other person and what the other person wants until you ask before you know that you were wrong. I think that's one of the reasons why communication is very important.
I want the sister to also confirm, is it true that we assume things in marriage? Or are we all single? If you are not single, please take the mic. Nobody? Ah. Okay, so this concept is what is called mind reading. Mind reading. And it's a big problem for those who are older in marriage or people who have been in a very long relationship. You hear people saying, all these days, since these years, so you don't know what I want. You don't know what I want. So, how do we avoid mind reading in marriage without engaging in communication? If we don't communicate, then there's no way that you won't be trying to read the mind of your spouse. And most of the time, we always read the wrong thing. Most of the time, our mind is telling us the wrong thing. And I give you an example. My wife is not here, but she can confirm if you call her. I changed the password on my phone on Wednesday. She didn't know until yesterday night. She said, why did you change it? I said, I just changed it. Will you tell me? I said, no. I said, why? So, you want to start hiding things from me? I said, have I said that? Then she became very quiet, came back to the room, and she sent me something and said, why do you want to betray me after 25 years? Excuse me. Betray you, Bao. Because I just changed password. Anyway, when I got here, I had to take it back to the last password. And I sent a message to her, I have changed it back. Because she was already reading so many meanings into different things. Okay, so when she now said, Alhamdulillah, and I sent a hug emoji to her. She now said, hey, thank you. This is for me, at least for now. Another mind reading. Maybe I changed my password because I want to take another wife. Can you imagine? So, seriously, we have a lot of communication problems in marriage. And somebody described it in 3 ways. Using our phone communication to explain. There are times when you are trying to communicate with your wife or with your spouse and there is no network. There's no network. Another one is there is network, but the line is engaged at the other end. When there is no network, it will tell you that the number you are trying to call is not reachable. And when there is network and the other person is engaged, it will tell you that the number you are calling cannot pick your call now. And the last one is when you even call and he or she is not even there to receive your message. It will ring and ring and ring and ring and ring and ring, and nobody will pick the call. And this happens a lot. At this point, I want somebody to help us share an experience of communication in marriage. It may be something you heard from a friend, or maybe you read on the social media. But we need to establish the fact that communication is actually a problem. Let us have about 2-3 examples.
This was just yesterday. So I had an event to go and anchor, and I needed to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning, which therefore means that I have to set out early. And my wife had already said, you know what, we also need to go out. And I said, anytime you are going out and I'm going out, that means that I might be late. Therefore, I needed to hasten everybody up. Long story short, I hastened them up. I had to wake her up very early, and then the kids and all of that. Apparently, the style of waking her up, she had taken a fault in that she wasn't happy the way I woke her up, and the way I was hastening her up. It was too fast that made her forget to me one or two things. And I didn't even notice anything had gone wrong. I went out, I dropped them off where they were going, and then I went by my own program, and returned sometimes around 5 p.m. She was still not saying anything per se. When we were going home around after Maghrib, and then she was like, I was so annoyed at you this morning. I said, what happened? What did I do? In my mind, I was thinking of 1 million things. I didn't see anything. I can't remember we having any issue before now. And I said, major things that the reason why I'm angry is just because it was hard for you to even pick that I'm angry. I said, how was I supposed to know that you're angry? And I said, let me even think about what you did exactly. So apparently she couldn't even narrow down to say, this was what you did. After some back and forth, about 5-10 minutes, and I said, I think it was the way you woke me up. I said, oh, okay. Now I know what I did wrong. I'm sorry. Guess what? She said, that I'm sorry that you said. It's not bad, I'm sorry. You didn't mean it. And I said, I'm actually really sorry. It wasn't as if I intended to do that. But then again, those are the assumptions. And finally, to just wrap it up, is communication is very, very key. And we've been over 6 years in marriage, and we've never had an argument that lasted more than 24 hours. And I think that's a good thing. Thank you.
I'm going to kind of reference it to what you said in the beginning when you said, you called your wife and all of a sudden it was strange to hear from you that I love you, that statement, because you had not been saying it. Similarly, even though our marriage was early, this was not a case of saying I love you. It was a case of, checking up on each other. And I would go out in the morning. After I get to work, I get all busy. Even if I should fail to eat before I set out, I may not eat until I get back. So that is how busy I think I get when I get, but at least I try to pick my calls. So when I get to work, my wife would call to say, hello, have you gotten to work? How is it going? And this went on for days, for weeks, for months. So some days, I don't get those calls. And one day, I had to ask, and that question was met with silence. I had to repeat it, and I noticed. So I want to say it's very important to be observant, number one, when something changes. So you know that there is something that needs to be communicated. So when I observed that change, and I asked, and I saw the response, the reaction towards that question, I noticed something was amiss. So in asking and wanting to know why, eventually I got an answer. The answer was, she work with me. So I was going to say, she make me about. I could go on to say, mo busy, man busy in Kong. But, I see that sometimes when things are not, when you don't reciprocate, no matter how busy you are, you don't try to communicate. This communication that I'm talking about, this one is just as regards checking upon each other. Now, this is not about, and at the same time, it's also about trying to understand each other. So I try to understand the fact that she would love to feel the same. Like, yes, maybe when I'm at work, I'm thinking of her too, just like, she thinks of me when I am away. So I think the other thing aside observation is being deliberate about things. So when you want to communicate, you want to see that you are being deliberate in how you do it in a way that it does not result just into an argument that is not going to solve anything. And then you are trying to also understand the other party so that you can both be happy. Those are the two things I want to relate.
All right, thank you. Very nice examples. I'm sure we have picked one lesson or two from those things. Let me go back a bit and try to put a definition to what communication is. Communication definitely is a process by which one person sends or receives a message, not even send. Yes. It is not, communication is not when you send a message. Communication is achieved when a message is received. And I want us to look at this very well. Now, if I'm talking to you and I tell you to do something and you do it in a particular way, it means you have done what I have told you to do. If you have done it in a wrong way, who is at fault? The sender or the receiver? Eh? The sisters want to speak now. Yes. Just take the mic and tell us, who is at fault? Sender or receiver?
The sender.
The sender. Do we all agree? But practically, that is not always the case for us. Yes, you have a different opinion on that.
You can only blame the sender if you've not confirmed that the sender actually got, an understanding from the receiver. So, for example, if I say, look, I need you to get to point A for me, and then I ask you that, please, did you understand what I said? You said yes. Okay, so explain to me what I mean. And you said, hey, this is what it is, and I correct you. Or probably I said, okay, this is what I mean, and everything. And maybe, for example, I went as far as saying, this is how getting this would mean to me. Then that's one. Secondly, also, it could also be inferred. For example, I say, look, I want my clothes washed. Yes, getting it washed is one thing. The time I want it washed is another thing. But at least we all know that you cannot, when I say, okay, please, I need my clothes washed, I don't infer that, okay, you should simply get it dirtier anyway. So definitely in those two things there, the clear part there, if I'm able to delineate that, I think you can't blame the sender for that.
Absolutely. Look at the effort he has taken to explain what he wants the receiver to do. So it means the onus is on the sender to make yourself very clear. I'm going out, please wash my clothes. That's the communication. Now I came back in the evening and said, but I told you to wash these clothes. He said, yes, you did. But you have not washed it. I will wash it. You will wash it. I told you something in the morning and you have not done it. And I'm your husband. Now, I think something is wrong somewhere. As the sender, the onus is on you to ensure that the person that is going to receive the message gets it clearly. So if there's a problem with the receiver, the problem is actually with the sender. Do we agree? Huh? I think there's a problem with my own communication. If I'm not getting the right vibes, it means that my communication is faulty. You are not receiving the messages.
Someone wants to respond to you here.
No, my question is very clear. Wait, I said, he gave us a perspective And in trying to explain that perspective, he had to go on to explain and explain and explain as a sender. What are those things you need to really detail if you want the receiver to get the message? I am not saying that if you pass a message to somebody and the receiver does not get the message, who is to be blamed?
If I may chip in something there, sir. The sender can equally be blamed. The sender can equally be blamed. Using the same scenario the man painted. Wash my clothes. I went out. You come back in the evening. The clothes are not washed. Now, did you actually give her a time frame to get the job done?
No.
No. It means it's opened. It can be done maybe next week, after a month, because you were not explicit enough. So the more explicit you are, the better the communication to the other person, the better the understanding.
Okay, very, very good. Let's move it forward. Now, that particular scenario, the man says, wash my clothes. He comes back in the evening, the clothes are not washed, and he picks a quarrel. I think that is wrong. What he's supposed to do for that is, no, please, I want the clothes washed today. Can we still get it done today, or you wash it tomorrow morning? Now, if we learn effective communication skill, and we understand from the point of view that the sender is the one who has not clearly explained what should be done, then the onus is on you to further clarify and don't pick a quarrel out of it. If we all agree to this, I think this is going to be very helpful for us in our marriages. Let us always remember that when you give, when you communicate, and there are still some areas that are not clear, try to provide information so that the receiver can have a very clear brief about it. I'm not saying that there can't be further communication problems, there can be, but at least from the beginning, the sender should understand and also see it as a responsibility to explain the communication or the message clearly. Do we still have any comment on this? So, if we are clear about what communication is, you have not communicated until the receiver understands what you want. I don't know if you have ever watched this film, like Stars on Earth. Ishan, like Stars on Earth. Ishan teacher was trying to explain to his father that communication is important even in teaching and learning. When a child is not getting what you are saying, it is not because the child is deaf or because the child is naughty. It is because the language is not clear to that person. So Ishan teacher went to his father's house and was trying to explain that your son is not lazy. He said, no, he's lazy. Look at his brother, always coming first. But look at him, very lazy. He will not read. He said, it's not that he's lazy. This boy cannot even understand the simple A, B, C, D, and E. He said, no. Then the man looked around and saw, I think they are Indians or so. The man looked around and saw, when you buy a new product from China, all the language directive or information is in Chinese. So the man took it and said, sir, read. He said, I can't read. He said, read. He said, I can't read. He said, you are stubborn. Read. He said, I can't read. I said, I can't read. It's not my life. He said, read. He said, this is exactly what is happening to your child. If your spouse does not understand what you are saying, it means you have not come to that person's level of language. Some people learn so fast. Some people pick slowly. They pick slowly. There was a particular case between a husband and wife. The man says that anytime I tell her, she will never listen. But sometimes she will listen. Both of them never knew that the lady has hearing problem. So anytime she's sitting and her right ear is towards her husband, she hardly hears. And anytime it is her left ear that is close to him, she hears. And this has been causing a lot of problem between them. So, going forward, I have mentioned something about mind reading. We do this a lot. And in fact, some people even hang it on love. If you truly love me, you should have understood me. If truly we are in love, all these days, you should know my A. You should know my B. You should know when I look this way. You should know when I look that way. But that is not communication. My brother started with assumption. We should avoid it. Don't assume anything. Please, why don't you communicate? And there are different means by which we can communicate. The one that is common is what? Is the verbal communication. You talk. And we know that talking, verbal delivery of communication, according to a research, gives us 11% of success in communication. 11%. If you talk every time and talk, what you are trying to achieve in your communication is just 11%. So it means that we need to understand some other means by which we can deliver our communication. So beyond talking, how else can we communicate? How else do you think you have been communicating or that we can communicate? Anybody? Okay, let's go this way. I'm expecting sisters to talk. Any sister ready? And I don't know what is happening. No. When it comes to communication, talking, sisters like to chat, like to talk more than brothers. But here is a different story. Yes.
Okay, so other forms of communication, body language, basically. By looking at somebody, you can pass a message. By reading the person's posture, a person can shrug, the person can look at you in a certain way. And for example, when we are a lot younger, when we go out, maybe we visit relatives or we visit friends, and our parents want us to behave in a certain way, or when we see that we are going beyond particular boundaries, they give us a certain look that insinuates that don't try that, and we just understand that message without them even lifting a finger. Just a look in our direction, we understand that we shouldn't do a particular act. So I think that is one way of that, and I think it's a very vital way, especially for a lot of children that are brought through that way. I think body language plays has a lot of impact on the kind of communication and how it affects us generally.
Yeah. Body language, facial expression, I have noted that. More. There's a particular one that I know sisters love that we can communicate. And it's even part of the love language.
Is it money?
Yes, somebody.
Is it money?
No, touching.
What?
Touching.
Touching, excellent.
Aha.
Touching, excellent. Now, let me say two things here. Facial expression that he mentioned, in the same study, revealed that it gives us 55% of success in communication. facial expression, body language. You are saying sweet words, but your eyes are red and you are frowning. Which one will they take? They will look at your expression more than they look at what you are saying. And that's the truth. So it means that what you are saying must also be in tandem with the kind of expression that you have on your face. You get home, or maybe you are at home, your wife arrives, and you want to hug her, and you say, excuse me, salam alaikum. That's the best way of greeting, salam alaikum. And she goes in, says, what's wrong with her? Does salam alaikum means we should not hug? Then it means something is wrong. And you know there are some people in their house, it's just salam alaikum, alaikum salam, they go. They don't hug, they don't do anything because they just feel that, why are you hugging? What are you? Like I told some couple, I said, with your situation, no, you guys must hug every morning before you go to work. Say, why? Seriously, they go a long way. A long way. Touch, facial expression, hugging, speaks volume when it comes to communication. 2007, I went to Hajj with my wife, and before we left, at that time we had been married for 9 years. No child. So I said, this Mecca we are going, we are going for serious business. So go do your tawaf, I do my tawaf. No, this thing there. I said, I said, okay. So when we got to tawaf, she was behind me. And she was slugging it out. At that time, tawaf used to be very, very tedious. And while I was going on my own too, I just saw one Arab man. He said, Aji, Sabur, Aji. And he was doing like this. Can you imagine? One beautiful girl was in between his arms. I said, Zawja, Aji, Zawja. And I looked back, I saw my wife. And something struck my mind. Rasulullah said, the best place you can be, that you are closest to Allah, is in Kaaba. This guy is in the front of Allah, is still protecting, still showing love. Can you imagine? After that tawaf, I told my wife, I said, next tawaf, we are going together. So when we got there, I said, Aji. And, she was happy. Communication between spouses is very, very important. And it is beyond just talking about it. Now, something that is going to help our verbal communication is the vocal tone that we attach to it. I met a sister, she said, her nature is she shouts. I said, you shout. She said, you got him more. My husband should understand. That is me, I shout. I said, So when you go to work and you're talking to your boss in the office, do you shout? He said, no, I don't shout. If you don't shout at your boss, then it means you can change. You can change. You have to learn it. Marriage is a school. Unfortunately, it's a school where we get certificate before we even start to attend. Somebody studies medicine or counseling or any course, accounting, law. It is after you have finished and you have taken the final exam that they will give you a certificate. But not marriage. Even before you start, they have given you certificates. And with that certificate, we have this mentality. Especially men. Am I not the husband? As if we already know everything. And seriously, marriage is a school. It's like we have to start learning again. And one of the things we have to learn is communication. So our verbal expression will be supported by the kind of tone with which we address ourselves. Darling, can you help me bring my food? It's different from, hello, yeah, where's my food? And she says, see, on my head. And the problem will start. But if you have said, hey, darling, can you help me with my food? I said, gladly, I'll get it now in a jiffy. That is what the tone with which you address yourselves can bring out. Then, let us also support with what? With touch. The way we touch ourselves, let's cultivate that habit. I'm sorry, but some brothers do not touch their wives until they get to the bed. No. Part of communication is that you touch yourself well. I once had a couple, they were preparing for marriage. They came from Port Harcourt. And in fact, I was always embarrassed anytime they are around. Because the lady will keep touching the guy. And the guy will keep touching the but the lady, I will be talking, she will be touching. I was almost saying, if not that I am American, I was saying, Benny, stop that. But because, you need to understand what people... So I kept quiet. So when we got to sex, then the guy said, that's the problem. They have done Akidu, and they were living together. They now came to Lagos for the Walima. The guy now said, this is why I have a problem with her. She doesn't like sex. I was shocked. In fact, in my mind, when she kept touching, I said, Omo burúkú lọmọ yìí, Omo burúkú lọmọ yìí. But look at it. It was shocking. The lady does not like sex. But she cannot stay 5 minutes without touching him. Touching his head, touching his neck, holding his hand. And when it comes to the real thing, say, no, let's still play, let's play. The guy said, I have played tire. I will play for 2 hours and nothing will happen. So, touching is good. Facial expression, body language is excellent. Before we leave communication, I want to talk about listening. Because it is one thing for you to communicate. It's another thing for you to listen. In fact, part of the problem, as highlighted by my brother here, is you are talking, somebody is not even listening. That's one part. Another part is we have an issue, we have a problem. Something happened. We want to resolve it. How do we listen? We listen in 3 ways. One is not good. The other one is better. But the last one is excellent. Listening to speak. As he's talking, you pick your pen and you are jotting it. And when it is your turn, you say, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I have noted 10 things that he has said. Number 1, what you have done is that you have listened to respond. And that is what is called internal listening. And this is what we should not do. Sincerely. When you listen to respond, you are going to break the marriage more. Because as you are listening, your mind is just going around. You don't know anything. Today, I will bust your bubble. Can we get any reconciliation from that? We are all guilty. Even me, including me. We are all guilty. What we do is that we listen to speak. And like I said, let us try to avoid this. The second level is you listen to understand. So when I changed my password, how did you feel? He said, in fact, I felt naked. I felt like you have betrayed me. I said, I'm sorry. I'm listening to what? To understand the impact of my action on her. But if I want to listen to speak, I change my password. Just password. Have you forgotten that day that I said you should cook? I said you should cook beans. And you didn't put the beans on fire until I came. Now you are saying that I came. See password. How is password and this thing? Then I said, that is one. You remember that day again. Because I am listening to what? To speak. But when you listen to understand, you will appreciate how your partner is feeling, how your spouse is feeling, based on what happened. And you are not calling it pretense. It is sincere, genuine understanding. And it happened. That day, the lady came and spoke for over 1 hour. The husband was just looking. And after she finished, the husband just said, oh, wow. Just okay, said, forgive me. Because the lady was talking and she was crying. She was talking, she was crying. And the guy said, I have nothing to say. Just hug me. I am sorry. And he kept petting her. And she continued crying. Because the more he was petting her, the more she was letting it loose. But another case, the moment the lady started crying, she cried tears. Sukun cry. Me too, I will cry today for you. I will cry. Both of us will be crying. Now, what you have done is that you have damaged her more. Have you seen a man crying? I don't said, Okuni sukun. Because the lady would never cry, but the guy will always cry. And say, look at her. I mean, look at him crying. How can you be crying? And you are a man. Can't a man cry? We should cry. When you need to cry, cry. You are not Superman. You are not Superman. Even the Prophet Sallam cried. So if you need to cry, cry. The point here is, it is okay for us to listen and understand. And what's the last one? Who can guess? You listen to learn. You listen to what? To learn. Sincerely. Even if an idiot is speaking, you will learn from that idiot. When you want to learn, Allah paved the way for you. The rubbish somebody is saying becomes a lesson for you. But if you close your mind to learning, you won't learn anything. I only have this conversation with my wife. Anytime we are in the car on a Sunday, there is no radio station you put it that it is not preaching. I said, feel embe. Said, lie, feel it. Why? Said, how can you be listening to preaching? I said, leave it there. I will learn something. She said, no, me, I'm not learning anything there. What am I going to learn? I said, okay, no problem. You can change it. But me, I'm a public speaker. When I hear somebody else speaking, I learn from what they say. So let us cultivate the habit to learn from the other person. Don't ever listen to speak, but listen to understand and listen to learn. And when you want to engage in communication, please assign a time to it. I know a sister that has been battling with depression for over 8 years. And the problem was communication. She's very chatty. She likes to talk. The husband does not like talking. He leaves home after 6 in the morning and comes back around 9:30, 10. So the lady was craving for time to speak. And the guy bought a notice board and put it there. Said, if you have anything to say, write it. Put it there. I will fix a time that we can talk. And that was the last thing that broke the sister. Can you imagine? Notice board in the house. Your husband. If you know there's something very critical we need to talk about, write it there. If I see it in the morning, I'll create time for it in the evening. I came across a concept. They call it communication dates. It is not dating that you go out to eat. This is communication date. Every one of us should have a communication date, either daily or every 2 days or weekly. A week should not go that you and your wife will not have a communication date. Today, 1 hour or 30 minutes, we want to talk. No matter how busy you may be. It is my humble prayer that Allah will help us with our communication and bless our marriages for us. I don't know whether we still have time. But I know that we still have one serious matter to address. And that serious matter is of great importance to sisters. And it is a matter that brothers don't want to discuss. And that is finance. Is my introduction correct? We can give the sister the 2 mic because they will use it. Finance. Finance. What comes to our mind when we talk about family finance or finance in marriage? Please say something. What comes to mind? Anything. Please help me give it to Sheikh.
Assalamu alaikum. It's basically about money.
It's money.
Yes, money for food, money for clothing, money for accommodation, money for school fees, money for this, money for that, money for hair care.
He said it is money, money, money. They asked one sister one day, don't let me say sister, a lady. He said, what is your problem? She said, money. He said, after that, she said, money. And after that, she said, money. But I must tell you that money is not a problem for all sisters. There are some sisters who don't care about money. Some of them want quality time. Some of them want support in the house. Some of them want touch. Express that you love them. Except that I don't know the percentage. Whether it is few of them that wants money. Or many of them. Or half of them. But I'm saying this so that our mindset should not be like the problem of family finance is not the man but the woman. Because they are the ones that always want money. No. If we rate problems in marriages, a study revealed that money is number 3. The first one is sex. The second one is communication. And the third one is money. Okay, that's that study. Another study can give us another result. But why is money the problem? Brothers, why is money the problem? Or is money not the problem? Or is money not a problem? It's a problem because we have been told on the day of marriage, Abi, that what she will eat, where she will live, what she will wear, is whose responsibility? The man. And when children come, who will buy their clothes? Who will pay their school fees? It is the man. In fact, they also tell us that if she works and she has money, it is her money. Is that not so? So the expectation is high. Is high. Sisters, how is market? Eh? I can't hear you. How is market? Tell us. Give them the mic. I want to know whether finance is a problem. And how are you coping? Sisters, don't fall my hand though.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Market is not smiling.
You say what?
It's not smiling.
Market is not smiling. Why? Give me one reason. Another person will give us another reason.
Cost of things is very high. So to maintain the home self, it has turned to war.
That's one perspective. Market is not smiling. That is, our husbands are not giving us enough money to take care of the home front. Okay, so let me come back to brothers. This is our situation. We are supposed to bear everything. Unfortunately, we are not alone. Your younger brother's son is also calling on you. Your niece and your nephew, they are also saying, don't forget to, anytime it is time to pay for school fees, you are not paying for your child alone. You are also paying for several other people. So, brothers, how have you been coping? How have we been coping? Let's say it now. Let's learn. Let's learn from you. How are you coping? I attended a couple seminar one time. In fact, precisely on the 1st of October. And we were talking about family finance. And they narrated the story of a sister who is the one that is carrying the responsibility in the home. And I asked, how about your husband? He said, he does not have a job. I said, I don't understand. Does not have a job. Bao. There are jobs. He said, there is no job for him. Is it true that there are no jobs? And I said, She Koleko Gota. They said, he can't do that. He can't do that. Kole Shegita. No, he can't do that. He's a graduate. I said, okay. He's a graduate. So, brothers, how are we coping? Is it true that we cannot sell pure water? Please, let's talk. Mustafa, help me beg them to talk. Please say something. You are the one that is wearing the shoe. Me too, I'm wearing the shoe, but I think I have said enough.
Yeah, so let me quickly make a contribution on that. A lot of time, for most of us that are also graduates, let me just touch on the fact that you said graduates in particular. Most times, people look down on those who perhaps are working for themselves. We see them as perhaps less, what's the word now? Not corporate. And everyone wants to work 9 to 5, want to go to the office. We feel that is more prestigious in a way, but that is not the reality. So a lot of time, men have a lot of things they are thinking about in their head. But what you don't think about, like the sister said earlier, that the challenges that we're dealing with right now is sometimes, some 5-10 years ago, if you were earning 100,000, you are even a lot much better now. Even if you are earning 250,000 naira, because of inflation, obviously. Now, to the nature of job and the ability to say, I want to even do extra. I work 9 to 5, and after that, I have at least 2 or 3 other things that makes money for me. And I don't shy away from this one, I cannot do it. If I find an opportunity, even as far as Osun State, and I can clearly map a roadmap to say this one will fetch me money, and I have time, trust me, I will go to Oshu State to go and bring that thing back to Lagos. Finally, another example. My younger brother, who at the time, of course, you said billing. It's not easy when you're also having to pay school fees for brothers and then extended and all of that. Long story short, at the time he was graduating from Lautech, he said he wanted to get married. And I said, I don't think you're ready because I know his capacity, income-wise. Fast forward 2 years after, he was buoyant enough to actually get married. He studied statistics and started selling gadgets, small. He would order for phones, iPhones, Samsungs, and he was selling. Fast forward again, they went on about 6-month strike. He went to learn tailoring, and he now sews clothes. At this stage, as I speak, he no longer sew. He gives it to a third party to sew the clothes, and he sells them. He goes to Abba from Ogumosho to go and buy material, and he has a big shop now that he now sells material to people. Now, if you offer that my brother the same work of 9 to 5, I will pay you 200,000. He will tell you don't know what you are doing because he's not ready for that anymore. So again, opportunities, and then don't let us close our mind to, as long as it is halal, please, let's all go out there and get money. Thank you.
Thank you for the advice.
Now, can I build on that, what he said, Sheikh? Okay, Alhamdulillah. I think a lot of people that go into marriages have forgotten that, just like we discussed yesterday, that marriage is an act of ibadah. And when you do not have that in front of you, then you get the scheme of things wrong completely. Wallahi, marriage can be difficult in Lagos. Even from the point of choosing the sisters, I'm telling you, you think that you may be able to survive in Lagos, but just go to Ibadan. Scale down. Sisters there are even less troublesome.
I beg your pardon.
Hold on, sir. Hold on, sir. You see, when you get to Ibadan and you realize that these ones are becoming over my pay grade, go to Oyo. If it's too much, move to Obomosho. If it's too much, don't stay in Ilorin, jump Ilorin. Those ones are another level entirely. Go straight to Jeba. Then the further you, it sounds funny. It sounds funny, but this is the reality. I went to Jeba, sir.
What's your point?
My point is, scale down. You can marry 2 wives easily in some part of the country than marrying 1 wife in Lagos. The point I'm trying to pass across, cut your coat not according to your size, but according to your material.
To the size of the cloth.
The size of the cloth. Exactly.
That's applicable in Lagos too.
Well, maybe those, you know what I'm talking about in general.
I know.
So, yes.
I quite appreciate the fact that standard of living varies from one state to another.
And standard of personality also. Really, brothers, just do hijrah from Lagos.
Oh, okay.
Now,
no wahala. Thank you. So when you now do hijrah and go, who will marry the sisters in Lagos? Don't worry, sisters. We are on ground for you. Now, seriously speaking, anywhere we go to, we spend money. We pray to Allah to continue to enrich all of us. standard of living is high in Lagos. We can't deny that. As high as it is, some people are not complaining. It is Allah. I want to share some 6 principles about general finance in the home. And the way you started from is, this is Ibadah. I always tell brothers that you are the CEO. If a company is not doing well, who is at fault? The CEO. Who is the first person to fire? You fire the CEO. So if you come to me and say, I want to marry your daughter, I want to marry my daughter, you want to marry my daughter, and I ask you, Oba Jegon, she will manage it. Oba, ma touche, ma manage it. Oh, you're going, it's okay, sir. Oh, like your wo, ma fulowo. Won't I give my daughter to you? But if I tell you, Oba Jegon, idi, ma di pẹ̀lú ẹ báwọn rí sà. Mama máa nọ bí ẹ̀mejì ara ẹ̀ ya. Ó láìkí owó ẹ má wọrí. Nígbà tí máa fi yà jẹ orí àpadà sílé. Do you know that during the time of the prophet, a woman wanted to marry a Sahaba. This woman is from a very rich background. And the prophet said, you can't marry him. He will suffer you. Because you are from an affluent background. This man is what's that? He's a miserly person. He would deny you. So don't marry him. So, whether we like it or not, we have to eat, we have to find shelter. And this is the responsibility of both of us in marriage. The first principle that we must understand is that wealth in Islam is a mandate and a right of any Muslim. Don't ever see yourself like, I can never be rich in my life. No. That we have wealth, that we are rich, Allah has not denied us. He has said, Rabbana atina fi dunya hasanatan. In fact, Prophet discouraged that we should make dua. I said, oh Allah, you see this world, let me not be rich, deny me everything because of the hereafter. I said, no. No. There's a portion of what Allah has decreed for you on heart. Pray for it and work towards it. And there's no discrimination about this. I have seen people whose parents cannot even, they themselves. End of October, I was in Makkah for Umrah. I met a brother. This brother could hardly speak simple English. He sells on Tajani. We traveled together. In fact, they stopped him because he had some money. He had about $5,000 and asked me that I am a salary earner. I didn't have up to $1,000 in my hand for that Umrah. He sells at Dosumu. Nobody should underrate anyone. Anybody can be rich. Pray to Allah. Because Allah said He will give you. The second principle, because this first principle is what will make you to continue to work hard. I told some people, one Hajj we went to, I said, next Hajj, tí ma fẹ́ lówó, màá wá máa ta òkúta ní ìbúra tí máa ń jókòó yẹn náà, Muzdalifa. Mo ní tí ma mú nylon, tí ma ṣe òkúta síbẹ̀, òkúta tó máa jù fúnjọ́ mẹ́ta, instead of bending down, I said I will sell it and I will become rich. Keep thinking. A man must keep thinking. A woman must keep thinking. At times it is the woman that Allah will use to bless the marriage. Who was richer? Muhammad or Khadija? It was Khadija. So, second principle. Your source of wealth must be pure and accountable. The third one is that providing sustenance for the family lies absolutely on the man. It is the man that has the mandate to provide for the family. There was a time I requested from my wife. I said, can you give me half of our rent to support me? Then she said, do you know that if a woman helps to contribute in the accommodation of the family, then Allah takes barakah away from the man. He said, struggle to pay it yourself. Food, accommodation, and clothing. The woman can buy it and clothing. Make it your mandate and do it. However, you do it based on the level of your income. The last principle is budgeting. This is a solution. It will help you with your wife. It will help you with your children. Your wife will not ask you what you cannot do. Your children will not ask you what you cannot afford when you do budgeting. This is the amount I can afford. This is my salary. This is what I earn. This is how I do it. You may not tell them all your, because I know a lot of us will not want to declare the total salary. My wife only knows what I earn with state government. What I do extra, she doesn't know. So if I go out and make a presentation, they give me 10,000, I'll come back home and say, 3,000. They say, take it, that's your own. 3,000. How much they for him? Money, kilo day. I have given you your own share. Do budgeting. And the final one is make dua. Make dua. There is this dua. It's a verse of the Quran. Always say it. When I was going to get married in 1998, that was when my father took me to one of his friends. He happens to be a Muslim scholar. And I said, you want to marry? Oh, yeah, take. Be saying it. وَمَيَتَكِ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجَهُ وَيَرْزُقُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَكْتَسَبُ. Sherry, do you know what ended it? In fact, I don't like reading it on Salah because I always misread it. It is Qadiron that ended it. But anytime I read it, I always read Kudro. And somebody said, what's your problem? Because your wife is Kudro. You always end with it Kudro. I said, I'm sorry. Allah said, if you believe in Allah, Yeji Allahu makhrajahu. He will always find ways for you. You believe in Allah, you are steadfast, Allah paves the way for you. To make it very clearly, he said, وَيَرْزُقُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَكْتَسِبُ. He will provide sustenance for you from where you least expect. Where you least expect. I have been saying this dua for a very long time, and I have seen it manifest in my life. I'm a bloody teacher. I started level 8 with Lagos State government. Lagos State government, level 8. My salary was less than 2,000 naira. In fact, if you know this very close friend of mine, Masoud Bello, when I was going to get married, we sat down because there was no money. I needed to buy TV. I needed to buy a sound system. I needed to buy a fridge. I could only afford 2. So we sat down and started discussing, which one do we buy? We ended up buying a radio, a sound system, and a fridge. Say if your father-in-law comes to your house in the sun and asks for water, you'll be able to give cold water. And if he says that, why is everybody silent? You will put on the radio. But with this dua, I thank Allah today. Even things that I think I can't afford, I can afford them. Allah brings His sustenance from where I least expect. And I want to encourage us as a family. Let us always say this dua.
You talked about the three ways of communication, listening aspect. And Alhamdulillah, I heard you mention that what majority of us do is listen to speak. So how can we correct that to actually upgrade from listening to speaking to understanding now to learning? Because I just believe that, I don't know, my own perspective, when you were saying, you listed some things and you put communication second. I want to believe that communication is the first in marriage, not sex. There's good communication, there will be good sex, there will be the other one. So how do we do this to achieve a very good marriage?
Let me quickly respond to
Okay, let's have
those
some
three.
response. The response to that.
Quran 65, verse 2 and 3.
Okay.
The end of verse 2, then spilling over to verse 3. It is not the responsibility of the man to cater for the wife extended family. It's not a mandate on him. It is based on whatever that you have that you can give. The woman too has the right to work, has the right to earn, and has the right to spend her earning on her siblings and others. You can only request your husband to support you in doing this, but not as a mandate. And
Acquisition of assets.
It's important for sisters to manage their husband's finances. It's one of the things that Allah is going to ask them principally about. The man goes out to work, brings things to the home, buys TV, buy chair, buy foodstuff, do all those things. It is the responsibility of the woman to manage those things. You can't give out the rice and the gari without your husband's permission. You can't give them out because they are not yours. It is meant for the home. But with your husband's permission, you can. It's part of doing sadaqah. But you have to manage based on what your husband is earning. And you cannot, from what your husband is giving you, say you want to go and buy land. From what he's giving you, you want to go and build your own house. That will be very, very bad, if I can say. If you want to buy a house, build a house, work for it. And except if your husband decides that, okay, because I have also read that a woman may not even go out to work, stays in the house, and the husband pays salary. And I know somebody, at the point in time, if not that they increased my salary, that lady was earning more than I was earning. And she was not working, she was not going anywhere. At times she would just call me and said, where can I invest? I said, how much do you have? She said, I want to invest 1 million. Because she has access to money. The husband pays her. The husband will buy food, money for food in the house is 100,000. Go and buy the food. Your own monthly, take 150,000. And after 6 months, the woman has about 500,000 to invest. She can just go and buy a land. But if your husband cannot do that and gives you 20,000 to buy rice and buy every other thing in this particular situation, and said, you manage this 10,000 naira for your own upkeep, that is what he can afford. You live within it. And you continue to pray for Allah to bless him. But for you to now say that, in fact, let me give you this narration that happened during the time of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. When he was Caliph, the second day, he took his belongings and he was going to the market. He said, Ya Caliph, where are you going? He said, I'm going to shop. He said, no, now that you are Caliph, you are not going to work. We will pay you from the Baitul Mal. So they started paying. And he was getting the lowest that he required. Lowest. Not our senators now that are getting highest. very small. And they will give the wife from Baitul Mal. I know what the woman did. The woman said, as the wife of the Caliph, we also need to live well and eat well. So when they give her money, for example, when they give her 20,000, she would withdraw 5,000. She will manage 15,000. They give her another month, she will take 5,000. Until a day, she now combine all the money and prepare a very delicious meal like a king. And Abu Bakr said, where did you get money for this? He said, from the money we have been given, I have been saving some. Then he wrote to them that they should reduce what they are giving him. That if what they are giving us, you can still save from it, then it means we are taking more than enough. Why don't you be like Abu Bakr? As a woman, take what is just enough for you to fend for the family. And don't strangulate your husband to say that we have to eat salad, we have to eat this, you have to eat that, you have to eat. I met a lady, she said, if they eat fish in the house, it is celebration for them. And that marriage is over 20 years. She can count the number of times that they have eaten fish, meat, if it is not festival. He said they hardly. And they are happy. I'm not that they are happy. They are surviving. Because eventually I found out the woman was not happy with that. She wanted to live a better life. And that is the desire of every woman. And with support here and there, with prayers, Allah blesses us and things will improve. That's my personal opinion. And again, if you rate sex higher than communication higher than sex, no problem. It's acceptable. Yes, how do you improve our ability to be able to listen? The first thing is, anytime you want to go into a discussion, clear your mind. Clear your mind. And whatever that is being said, tie it to nothing. See it innocently. Look at it innocently. And have that empathetic mind. You know what it means to be empathetic? Put yourself in the other person's shoe and try to feel what they are feeling. The moment you do this, everything you listen to will be in that perspective. It's not going to be like you want to antagonize them, you want to tell them they are telling lies. No. Everything they are saying is true. You empathize with them. You clear your mind. Link nothing to nothing. Don't associate things and say that, okay, if I'm doing this to you, have you forgotten what you have done? Don't remind him of what he has done to you. Just understand what he's saying.
Thank you so much for everything. Still sequel to what that sister talked about, the issue of communication. I find out that a lot of couples, they don't manage that line of communication very well. From what I've seen and from what I've heard. But what is the best way for anybody to communicate? Is it, I know that a lot of people are very informal. Formal when it comes to marital issues. But like at the forum I said, it should always be informal. Use that language that you understand. Especially if you are from the same background. Because there are messages that are best passed. Use your own language. A lot of people agree with me, sir. So, is it at bedtime or at dinner? Because I can't be coming back from work after 8 to 5 and somebody is talking to me about school fees. It won't sink. About school fees. For the kids. It won't sink well. So, what's the best time and the best form of way to communicate? Because communication too has a long way to go when it comes to issue of couple and marriage as well.
Okay, the first thing I'm going to say here is we have to remove that garment of being a man. Man is always serious. And we look at women as unserious. Try to be also vulnerable. You know what I mean by vulnerable? Show that you are also weak. Don't always show macho every time. And you can communicate this. You can use verbal communication and support it with the right vocal tune to communicate with your spouse. You can use facial expression to communicate with your spouse. While you are not saying anything, your spouse is getting the vibes. You can also communicate with touch. In fact, I wish that we don't see it as Iran. There are so many things you can do to communicate. You can write a short love letter. Sorry, dear, that I'm bothering you. I just want to say I love you. And you pack it and put it in her purse. And you go. Anytime she opens it, what's going to happen? She will smile. She will smile. It's not Iran. Our marriage is important. No matter what we are going through, we have to spice it up. We have to make ourselves happy. You know the time your husband will arrive home. Block him. Don't allow him to enter the bedroom. Let him stay in the sitting room. Because in the bedroom, you have prepared it for the night. You have put some candle light. It's not Abella Sele. You don't know. Candle light. You have put a new, spread bed. I mean, spreadsheet. I'm going to worksheet. Only spreadsheet. Exactly. Bed spread.
Creating an atmosphere.
You spread some roses.
Flowers. Yeah.
Some flowers. If that will not get smell, I have one particular perfume. It's the long. If my wife enters my room and hears it, she will understand. You can't understand. I'll just put it, around. We have to spice it up. You are in the office, send a message to your wife. Send a message to your husband. I'm missing you. Try to have a regular this thing. When I was working at Tescom, there's a lady, she's a typist. She comes to the office around after 9 every day. I will have been in the office by 9. When she comes in, she puts down her bag. The first thing she does is to call her husband. She put her bag down. She's a typist. She set up the system and she just take it. How did I know? Because when we are printing promotion letters, they will lock us up in one room. We will resume there and close there. So when she comes in, I always observe, she will just pick your phone and say, Baoni, darling. Baoni, welcome. How are you doing? She was okay. Breakfast. I'll just be looking and say, and me, I have never called my wife. My wife has never called me. No, we are fine, Abi. But if it is, you have a regular time that you also communicate with your wife. You communicate with your husband. Put a note on the kitchen, in the pot, or in the where you take the plates, and she sees it. Thank you for always cooking for me. I will never forget this. You are very dear to my heart. And put it on the gas cooker, and you go. I'm talking about what men can do, because I know the women can do it very well. But men, let us be vulnerable. Let us do it as many times as possible. I hope I've answered the question, sir.
All right. Yeah, I have a few other questions from here, from sisters. The first one says, okay, I think I should take the 3 so that you can answer them in succession. The first one says, are we obliged to take care of our spouse's parents? Women are usually required to be understanding when it comes to accommodating their husband's parents. The second one says...
Sorry, the first one, accommodate, what did you say?
Accommodating their husband's parents.
Accommodating as in living with them? Or
yeah, I suppose living with them. Is it living with them or tolerating? Okay, let's just assume it's
all
both.
Of the above.
Okay. The second one says, what about brothers who do not want their wives to work and will not want to give her money or stipend to cater for financial obligations to others. What about also cases of a man who deals with giving money based on sexual gratification? No sex, no money. Or sex before money. The last one.
Okay.
Please, how about a wife that always tries to communicate with her husband, but he always meets it with 1,001 other things that are not related or always defensive? Other times, he blames his wife for every of his ill actions towards her. The wife has chosen to stop communicating with him. Do you think this is healthy?
I'll start with the last one so that I don't forget. But I must tell you that the questions are becoming very tough. We started with NECO questions. Now we have jam questions. Like I said at the beginning, if love is so important, is the heartbeat of marriage, then communication is the lifeblood of marriage. The moment communication stops, then the marriage starts to break down gradually. So communication must not stop. We have to keep finding ways to ensure we are able to communicate. For some people, maybe face-to-face communication is not the best for them. You can communicate on WhatsApp. This is easy now. This is easy. Send a message to your wife, send a message to your husband. I know a couple of things that I couldn't resolve with my wife face-to-face, but we resolved it on WhatsApp. So it's a way that we can always adopt. Please let us always open a line of communication between ourselves. Choose the right time to discuss. Choose the right time to discuss. And give information ahead about the need to have a discussion, so that your husband or your wife can also prepare ahead. Send a message, darling, there's something bugging my mind that I would like to speak with you. Just about 30 minutes will be done. If he cares to know and said, can I know the topic? He said, well, it's something simple, it's about us, it's about money. He said, okay, no problem. So let him prepare his mind, and you're ready. It's not going to be like he arrives from work and said, Alhamdulillah, you are back home. There's a burning issue that we have to resolve. The next question is, sorry, when did you start the fire that started burning the issue? Why didn't you inform me ahead? If it's an emergency, we'll sit down to discuss it. If it's not an emergency, I think I need a break. So select a time, a good time for communication, and I will never forget. There was a time I wanted to do my international passport. My wife also wanted to do her own. So we went to First Stack. And we wanted to collect it that same day. So we did our biometrics, everything in the morning, rushing. By 9 o'clock we are done. They said we should wait till 4 o'clock to collect. So what are we going to do? So we sat down. It's me and her, looking at ourselves, talking. Let's stroll. We now stroll to a part of First Stack, under the tree. We just sat down there. And we talk. In fact, when we said, Soroba Iri. So always look for time. Look for time. Brothers, let us save. Me too, I used to save money. I'll save money and take my wife out. And I'll tell her, see, this date, say anything you want to say. I won't be angry. Anything you want to say, just say it. And we'll sit down. I don't want to mention places so that you don't go back home and tell your husband that one knee, one belly, anywhere you can go to. I tell people, you can even create it in your house. You can create that place in your house. But again, at times, maybe you just want to have some time outside the home. It's always good. Our parents are very dear to us, and we have to do everything to accommodate them. And I don't want us to live with regrets by treating our parents in a way that we will not like. You remember the way you treat your parents is the way your children will treat you. I'm sure you saw this particular, I think it's something online that I saw. That when a guy puts his, maybe mother or father, I can't remember, in the boys' quarter, and they were living in the main house. So the guy's son now drew a house and also drew a boys' quarter. He now said, "Daddy, this is where I'll be living when the kind of house I'm going to build. Me and my wife and my children will be living here, and you'll be living here." He said, "Why do you want me to?" That is where you put grandma now, so that's where I'm going to put you. If you have the opportunity to make your parents live with you, no problem. This is not a general rule. There are some situations where either the husband or the wife cannot tolerate. So put them in a comfortable place where they will be. There is nothing that says they must live with us. Nothing like that. But please don't be far away from them. My personal experience, when I was going to get married, my father encouraged me to live in his house. And I said, "No, I won't live in your house." So I went to live somewhere else. And I lived in that house for 19 years. In the 18th year, I went to visit my parents. And I saw them upstairs on the balcony. I said, "What are you doing there?" They said, "I want more bread." I said, "Seriously?" And that was the day I took a decision. I'm going back to that house. And God was so merciful to me. So I moved to the back flat downstairs. My parents were staying upstairs, front flat. And I was very close to them. Out of all the children, I was the closest to them. And it was not long. I moved in 2018. My father passed on in 2019. And one of the things he will never forget in his life was the few times that we were together. When I would have to take him to the hospital, there was a day he was almost crying because he vomited in my car. And said, I said, "Daddy, don't worry. Kilo wa doing. Am I worried?" I dropped him. I cleaned the car. Before he came back, said, "Kilo she money for." And he kept praying. This is the best we can do for our parents in old age. So whether they live with you or they live around you, please let us be the best let us do the best for them. Now, this is a very delicate one, and I stand to be corrected. And I will tell you categorically, to the extent that my knowledge will take me, that is not Islam. You have a wife, she's not working, you are not giving her stipend to take care of herself. That is not Islam. If you know your wife is not going to work, then you pay her. Because she has a right to earn. Don't forget the first principle. The first principle does not differentiate between a man and a woman. This is a woman. What if you are that man that gave birth to 5 children and they are all females? And they are all married to men who will tell them not to work. Even though you have spent all your life earnings to send them to school. And they are not working. They are not earning. And your children could not even send money to you to take care of you. That is going to be very bad and saddening. And I know this is happening. I can share an experience with you. I met this sister one-on-one. I cried for her. To the extent that the husband does not want her to do NIN. I said, "This man has finished you. Oh, exist." This woman struggled to say, "I want to register a company. gave her details to her husband. Her husband gave the details to the person that was going to do it and came back. When the paper came back, it was the man's name that was there. And said they lost your details. So when they lost my details, they now found your own detail, Abi. This lady does not have an account. She said she wants to open an account. The husband went to bank. She only gets alert. Her number is what is there, alert. It is not a name that is on the account. That is not right. It's not right. And I'm not overblowing this. I saw this live and direct. I met the sister one-on-one. And I told the brother, you need to correct a lot of things. Marriage does not make a woman to become persona non grata. She's a person. She has a right to hold. She has a right to work. You can give rules as regards how she works. I know a sister who works from home and earns millions of naira. She works from home. She does not violate any rule. In fact, Allah so blessed her to the extent that the people she works with, she doesn't know them. Because it is virtual. They send a mail to her, they don't even know how she looks. They send her a mail, she receives the mail, she deals with the work, and she sends it back to them. And she earns her money. You can regulate how your wife works. But it is not Islam to say that the woman will not work and she will not have earnings. I think there's a problem fundamentally in that particular concept. I'm not judging the brother until I listen to her, to him, to know exactly what he has put on ground. But without that, on the face value, I think it's not a right position. Wala wala.
I want to ask about communication regarding our young teenage children that can, if we want to communicate with our young teenage children, that we should be gentle with them too. And because there is no time, we didn't touch on parenting, that we should be gentle with our children, especially the teenage children. I want you to please emphasize on the fact that we should discipline them, but we should still be gentle, as we should be in the middle, so that it won't be too hard on them, and I want to discipline them, but we shouldn't be too hard on them.
I already made it known that these three concepts are too enormous for one discussion. There's no way we will not get exhausted. May Allah forgive me and forgive every one of us. Parenting is something very, very important, because what is the profit of a marriage? That Allah has blessed with children, and we cannot make the children to fulfill the will of Allah. Then it is useless. And one of the easiest way to lose our children now is via communication. There's a big gap between us and our children, because they are Gen Z and we are old generation. This is always the case, and it is worse now. In those days, when we were growing up, there is no phone. We have limited friends. We don't even have unknown friends. All your friends, is either your parents will even know them. But right now, you know that you cannot know the number of friends that your son or daughter has. And they get advices from different angles. And they share experiences. One of the greatest way of misleading people now is the peer group. And this peer group is all on this phone. It is worse. A family in the house, each one of them with their phone, laughing to their phones. And when they put the phone down, they quarrel within themselves. So they find happiness and laughter with people that are far away from them, and find inconveniences with people who are close to them. which is supposed to be the other way around. So the best way for us is to improve our communication skill with our children. The days that we'll never forget are the days of COVID, when we had lockdown. Nobody was going out. You and your wife and your kids, you have to be there. That was the period we were closest together. Amaso story, Amaso talk. There is no issue of no time to talk. The time was actually there. And I was able to see my son. One thing happened one day. I turned our dining table to a table tennis table. And we were playing. I was able to see a spirit of sportsmanship. That this guy cannot even bear loss. He can't bear failure. And I felt bad about it. If I had not been using sport to communicate with him, how would I have known? He'll just call you one day that he has broken somebody's head in school because we were playing football and his team lost. And somebody made a jest of him. And the next thing he did was what? To go and. So there are a lot for us, but time will not permit us. Let us take it as an assignment. You know, there's no class without assignment. Let us go on research and find out the best ways with which we can improve communication with our children. Communication with our wives is not as delicate as communication with our children. Do you know why? Our children, our wife has no place to go. They are stuck with us. But our children, you know what you'll be praying for? Don't worry, I'll soon leave your house. Let me end with the story that I read on the internet. This man was taken to old people's home. Old people's home. And he will always stand by the rail. And one day, I think it happened in Pakistan. One day, a man came to visit his own dad. And he saw this man. And this man begged him, can you please help me buy this particular bread? He said, I miss the bread. They are not serving us this bread here. He said, I have not eaten this bread for almost 3 years. Then the boy asked, what about your children? He said, I have 10. And none of them visits me. Then the guy went and bought that bread and bought juice and gave it to the man. The man left every other thing but took the bread. He ate it and he said, Alhamdulillah, I am okay. I don't need any other thing. This guy was so touched that after he left, he came back the following month to come and give that bread to the man again, only for him to hear that the man has passed on. One of the questions they asked the man the first day he met him was that, where are your children? He said, I don't know. They are all busy in the city. Only, and I'm waiting for them by Allah. On the day of Yom Al-Qiyamah, I am going to stand against them because they have not taken care of me. So the question I asked was, how did he relate with his children when they were young? That is a $1 million question that we need to ask the man. And that is the question we have to ask ourselves in future. The way you relate, if you take your son, your daughter as a friend that you communicate freely with, you are free to tell them your pains. They will be free to come and tell you. My son knew my age as long as he was age 4. I mean, he was age 4 or 5. He will come and say, how old are you? And I'll say, I have this age. I didn't hide it from him. Remember, when you hide one thing from your child, they will hide 10 things from you. If they know you always tell them, you will always be free to come and speak with you. If you are not the best friend to your child, then you should know that you have lost that child. Because you are their first teacher. You are supposed to be their best teachers. Go and read about scholars. When they tell their story, they will say that I had this from my father. I had this from my father. I had this from my father. What has your son had from you? You don't have time. May Allah give us the best of children and make us the best of parents and give us the wherewithal to be able to handle our children in this modern time. Jazakumullah khair.